I'm going to talk about how to maintain an Insight Materials database as a comma-separated values file in Microsoft Excel. I'll start Insight, and then I'll click the MDT button to open the Materials dialog, and then to view a material I'll just click on it to see the chemistry. Now Insight stores the chemistry of materials as formulas, which is in these boxes here, and it calculates and shows the equivalent analysis. If you're not sure of the difference, you could go to digitalfire.com, and in the upper right here in the search blank type in analysis formula and click search, and this first item here will explain what it is. Now to edit a material, of course, I would simply change the formula or the weight or the LOI, and then I would click the OK button and then the save to save the whole materials table back to disk. To add a material, I would click on a material and then here choose insert and then OK, and now I have a blank spot where I could type in the name, the alternate names, and the chemistry. Now one thing I should show you here about how Insight handles formula weight. Let's take for example kaolin. If I was to change this 12.5 to 11.5, now if I watch what happens when I press enter, watch what happens to the weight. Insight calculates the equivalent formula weight for that LOI. Or if I change that weight, let's say to 241, and I press enter, it's going to calculate the equivalent LOI. Now I can use Microsoft Excel to edit my materials database as columns of Oxide and rows of materials, and I can maintain the materials as percentage analyses instead of formulas. And to do that, I need to have the materials dialog open here in order to enable this menu, and I'll choose export MDT as CSV. On the Macintosh, it doesn't automatically fill in the .csv at the end of the file name, and it's not mandatory, but it is on Windows and the Linux operating system, so it's a good habit. So I'll click Save. Then I'll close this. Now I'll go into the Preferences dialog, Folders, and this is where I control the location of Insight's Documents folder. If I click this green arrow, it's going to open it. And here's the file that we just saved. So we'll close this, close this. Now I want to choose that CSV file as my Insight materials table that it opens every time it starts up, but it's not here. And the reason for that is I need to quit Insight, restart it so it rereads the list of materials files that are available in the Documents folder. There it is, so I'll choose it. Now if I open the MDT dialog, my materials are here. Okay, so now I'll close this. So now I'm going to quit Insight and just restart it to make sure that that MDT file is opening automatically. And it is. Now it's important to realize that I've gone down a different road here. Insight can export a CSV file and it can read it, but it doesn't save to that format. As long as the CSV is active, I have to edit it outside of Insight. For example, if I open the MDT dialog here and I make changes to one of these materials, and if I click OK and then click Save, that is not going to be saved into the CSV file. That is going to go into the standard XML format. And so the changes that I make are not going to go here. So I'll close this. So I'm going to go and find that file that I exported again to show you something. And I have a shortcut here to open the Insight Documents folder. There it is. Now instead of double-clicking it, I'm going to right-click it and choose Open with Text Edit. Now as you can see here, I have my Oxide data at the top, and there's columns for each of the oxides. The columns are separated by commas, and then down below I have my material data. Now let's close this. This time I'm just going to double click it. Now if you have spreadsheet software on your computer, then it's very likely that that spreadsheet software is going to know how to import this. In this case, it has popped up this text import dialog, and it's wanting to know here, how are the columns separated? And I already know that they're separated by commas. What if I put tab here? So we can see down here it's not working. But if I choose comma, it is, and I'll choose OK. It takes a moment to import it, and here it is. Many people are very comfortable in the spreadsheet environment, and this is a very effective way to edit a materials table within Insight. Now the information that's in these top rows, top 15 or so, is about the oxides, and that used to be maintained in the oxides dialog for this particular MDT within Insight. And the bottom rows here are materials, and they used to be maintained in the materials dialog in Insight. But it's important to remember that now for this particular MDT, everything is done here. And so of course to edit data for an oxide, you would change these settings that are up here. For example, if I wanted to change the ratio setting for an oxide, I would go over here and either change these T's and B's, which are tops and bottoms of the ratio equation. These Y's mean yes, and if it's blank, it's no. And for the materials down below, the important thing to remember is that these numbers are percentage numbers for the analysis of that material. And of course the loss on ignition goes here. And the rules are, don't insert any new columns before F. So if you want to insert a new oxide, it's either F or later. And don't insert any materials before row number 16. So anyway, let's insert a new row. So I'll click here. For example, on Albany slip, we'll go copy. Click on the next row, I'll go insert. And then I'll go paste. Now we have a new row there. Let's just change the name. I'll put a 2 after it. And now I'll save this. And it's asking me what format. We'll continue to use the CSV format. And then I'll close this. Now I'm just going to check to see what it did here. I'm going to go open with text edit. Okay, so my spreadsheet program did use the commas, for example, to separate the columns, and so you need to check this with yours. Insight wants to have a comma separator, and you have to maybe, and if your spreadsheet software is not doing that by default, you'll have to configure it to do so. Now let's go back into Insight and see if it can see that change that I made. So I'll open, I have the MDT.CSV materials table selected, so I'll go here, and there it is. So that's working well. Now, I should also point out that in the utility menu here, if I choose Edit CSV, Insight is going to ask the operating system to open that file. Let's see what happens. There it is. So each time you open it, you have to redo this import process because CSV is not a native format. So I'll click OK. Now I could now if I make changes again here, for example, if we remove this row and I save it. Now if I go back to Insight, that change is not there. I have to close this, reopen Insight to tell it to reread that because I'm editing it externally. And now you can see it's gone. And thank you for watching this presentation.